Okay, here are two Irish sisters, Mary and Rita, from Logboy, Tulreha, Clare Morris, County Mayo, Ireland, and they are in beautiful sunny South Florida. My Aunt Mary is visiting my mom and dad here, and it's been beautiful weather because, let's see, March, when did you arrive?
February 27th, I think.
February 27th, and going back on
With
Tuesday,
me.
March
Where's my?
27th?
The 15th.
No, it was the 22nd. It was the 22nd I came down.
Yeah.
27th.
John went the 21st.
My mother and father have had non-stop visitors. They had their neighbor for a couple weeks beforehand. Now they're having my sister from New York come down with her son. So it's non-stop. But we're going to talk about what was life like growing up in Ireland in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. And I'll ask each of you, what's your earliest memory you have of Ireland?
Oh, gee, let me think.
Was it when, who put the...
Oh, I remember when Kathleen, was it Kathleen? No, I remember when you were born. I remember when you were
tell me.
born,
Yeah.
and I remember going to school
Because
and
you were 9.
and saying we have a new baby and they're going to call her Margaret, and somebody said call her Rita. One of the kids says call her Rita, and I come home from school and told my mother, and that's what they called her, Rita.
Oh,
That's how it started.
That's now when I think of it. Yes, I remember going to school
God.
because
Somebody in the school said call her Rita.
one of my
I wish
girls.
I had them by the hair of the head. I'd drag them out.
Well, whatever.
yes.
We had to change all the paperwork. It was Rita, now it's her legal name is Margaret, so it's done.
Yes.
So that's what I remember going to school. Because babies, you'd wake up at night and all of a sudden you'd hear a baby crying. Maybe the baby was born downstairs and we were upstairs.
And they never went to the hospital.
Never went to the hospital. We were told they got the baby under the head of cabbage. So what did we know? What did we know? So that's what I remember.
That's what I said to Brad. I better talk.
So what's your earliest memory, Mother?
Right.
Was it who was the one who put the thorn cap on you?
Oh, it was me.
Oh, okay.
I was up the field, and they have crawdons. They call them crawdons, and I picked them and I put them on the top of my head. My mother got the comb, and she tried to comb it out, and she couldn't. She had to get the scissors and cut my hair off. I went to school with a cap on until my hair grew in.
And how old were you?
Oh, I don't even know. I remember that going to school with a cap on. But I remember them putting the crawdons on my head and them sticking to my head. And when she saw me, she said, oh my God. She had to get the scissors and cut the hair up. And my hair came in beautiful curls. So that was
I remember Jim cut mine.
she went to town one day, and when she come home, Jim had put her up on a chair and cut her hair. And all that was left was the top.
And how old was she?
Oh, she was a little thing.
Maybe 2.
And I remember Nora fell off the chair and broke her collarbone, and she had to go get it set. And she had her arm in a sling for a while.
Don't remember.
Oh, she was a little kid. I don't know if somebody pushed her off the chair or she fell off. She was too young to sit on the chair by herself.
And tell me about how I got this down
Let's see the
scar.
scar.
Oh gosh,
See the scar, Mother?
Oh, don't put that on there. That's ugly.
Okay. I thought you wanted to talk about it.
No, I want to know how.
Well,
What?
I think I was making a cow calf, and they were making some kind of gruel for the cow or the calf, and you kids were running around the kitchen, playing and running, and then I don't know, maybe one pushed you into the pot of stuff, and your hand got burned.
I had a corduroy jacket to sit on, and when they peeled it off, all the skin
All the skin came off. Yeah.
So I'm stuck with that all my life. I'm scarred for life on my left side. Got a scar here under my eye feeding the chickens.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I went up, at 3 years of age, that was my job to feed the chickens. And I got up on the stool and I fell down. It was a bowl that, broke.
Yeah.
And the piece went in there and I was bleeding.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Then I got my boob removed.
Mm-hmm.
And then this.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I scratched myself there and this is what happened.
Oh, you have
Like my fingernail hit it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you have a scar there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I couldn't be bothered going to the doctor
Mm-hmm.
and poking at me.
So what else about Ireland can you
Oh,
remember?
we had to work hard, going to the well for water and feeding the chickens and,
And there was
Sweet
not
and-
saying no. Kate Murphy, our mother, would take
No, you knew when you knew it had to be done.
She'd take the bunch of nettles and she'd pull down the underwear and smack us on the behind if we didn't work and do it. So that's how we became good workers.
What was your Christmas like?
Well,
It
Christmas
was very exciting.
It was very, very exciting. We
Looking at the neighbours running out in the yard to see how many people had their windows lit up with a candle stuck
they put
within a
light-
porter bottle
They
or a
put-
whiskey bottle.
They put lights and the candles on the windows for
Yeah.
Christmas.
And we got raisin and an orange in our stocking.
There was no, and we'd be looking for Santa Claus, and my mother would say, "Well, I think he went by here. He didn't think there was children in this house because she didn't have the money. She was a widow woman.
Right.
She didn't have the money to buy anything for us."
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Liz McNeef came home in 1932 and she bought us all a Christmas stocking, and we got up Christmas morning, we all had a Christmas stocking, and it was just like the birthday things, the things that whistle and whatnot. It was great excitement that we got something.
Yeah.
But no kid got toys or anything like that.
And the greatest excitement on Christmas morning was polishing your shoes in the dark and going down the fields to Logboy Church.
Church was at the end of the lane, so it was easy to get to.
And
down
going
the
in, and the neighbour woman sang the songs on a broken down organ.
That's right.
And it
Kathleen
sounded
Loftus.
Kathleen Loftus, and it sounded so wonderful. It made Christmas.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And the men sat on one side and the women on the other?
That's
Yes.
right. Mm-hmm.
So then your brothers sat on one side.
Yep.
Families were separated. Even
Oh, the
little
families,
kids?
everybody went into different seats, Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they always stopped when Mass was over and they come outside. In fact, they still do it today. Stand outside and chat, and that's how they got the news of what was going on
For the
around.
week.
How much they got for the bullock or cow or when they sold it. So, that's how
Life was.
that's
And
how life was.
The men didn't work on the farm because they said on the seventh day God
Nope.
rested, and they,
We didn't work on the land on Sunday. We had the day off. You could
just like Mama Woodsack, she didn't like anybody working on a Sunday,
Yeah.
remember?
But what about the cows? Wouldn't you need to milk the cows?
Oh, you needed to milk the
That
cows.
you had to do because
Morning and night.
they would get mastitis or
That's
what.
right. Oh, you had to milk your cows morning and night.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you had cows that you sold for meat, right?
Well, that was more or less heifers or bullocks that you sold for the meat. But the cows, the female cow was kept for the house.
And what did you eat? What was a typical meal in Ireland? Like a typical day, what would you have for breakfast?
Well,
lunch,
you
and
might
dinner?
have bacon and eggs, or you might have oatmeal for breakfast. Then dinner was meat, cabbage, carrots, parsnips, whatever you had.
We sowed all our own vegetables.
Potatoes. That was it. The noon. That was between noon and 1 o'clock. The big meal was. Then in the evening they might have ham, tomatoes, or whatever they had.
Good morning.
And might be just bread and butter.
I've been meaning
Right.
to call you, but I've been so busy.
And what was in the garden? What was planted in the garden?
Well, there was peas, carrots, parsnips, beets, cabbage, and you might have onions. You'd have onions, and you might have a couple of ridges of potatoes near the house, and you planted those early, so that by the time June or July came, you had something to eat, because when that period of time came, everything was eaten up. So it was kind of a lean time, so they planted things early so that it would get them through until...
Do you remember how many months it would take?
Well, they started early planting, March or April, I think, they started planting the potatoes, and by August you'd have new potatoes.
Right.
You'd have new potatoes.
No, he's going to go to
So,
And it's just cutting the potato,
And
letting
it
the
was-
eye grow, and
it
putting
was
back in.
it was slitting the potatoes and putting it in the ground and putting manure around it and all. It was a lot of hard work, and it was all done by hand. It wasn't done by machine or anything.
Right.
That was, in the 30s and 40s.
And what about clothes? Did you sew all the clothes, or
Uh,
did you
you-
buy?
Well, there was very little bought. We didn't have much clothes. You wore the same dress or skirt going to school every day.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekend, you'd wash it and have it clean for the next week.
Right.
So that was how we survived. That's how we survived.
Mm-hmm.
One pair of shoes, and that was it.
And they were passed down.
And
there were 6
if,
kids.
If it was still wearable, the next kid that could wear them wore them.
And you were the one who... Did your mother teach you how to sew?
We learned how to sew in school, and she had the sewing machine, and I learned how to sew on the machine.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what about crocheting? or
Well,
knitting?
I never crocheted. I knitted.
Knitted.
I
Did she
knitted.
teach you how to knit, or you did
Well, no,
that in school?
they were taught that in school.
Okay.
We were taught knitting in school.
So what was school like back then? You went at 5 years old?
5 or 6 years old
Mm-hmm.
that I went. Jim and I went together to school, and I think he was 4 or 5? He was 4 or 5, and I was a little older. The two of us went together.
Mm-hmm. So there were 6 in the family that lived. One girl, one sister died.
Well,
when she was a
the
couple
little one,
years.
there was 7 in the family.
Right, 7 altogether.
There were 7, yeah. She had spinal bifida, and she only lived 3 months.
Mm-hmm. So 4 girls
And 2 boys.
And 2 boys. The 2 boys are no longer with us, but
That's
the
right.
4 girls keep rocking on.
That's
They're
right, and
living on.
we're in the 80s and 90s
80s
now.
and 90s and living strong and living long.
Hmm.
So you would learn sewing and
Knitting.
and would you learn cooking also in school or no?
I didn't learn cooking in school, but I think the teacher before that was an old school, and from what I've read, she taught cooking to the girls. Because girls,
When boys had a separate.
boys were separate, but the girls learned to cook and sew and knit. That's why they all knew how to knit and sew and whatnot. You had to survive, because you had your sheep, you carded the wool, you had a spinning machine. We had a spinning machine, and my mother carded the wool and made the yarn and knitted the sweaters and socks and whatnot. And if you wanted to have a fancy sweater, you bought your yarn in town. You went into the shop and bought the yarn. So
And what were the boys being taught? When the girls were learning
I don't know what they were taught.
knitting.
Oh, I don't know what the boys.
sewing.
I know we'd have a period of a Friday, I think, to.
It was one room
It
classroom,
was
right?
It was a 2-room classroom.
Ballyhonus?
No, Log Boy.
Log Boy School, right?
Log Boy School, yes. So.
Right on the property on the other side, is it? By the church?
Well, it's not too far from the church.
And the church is called, what's the church called? Is it St. Mary's?
St. Mary's. And it was right at the end of the land.
And which came first, was the church there first or was the house there
The
first?
the church came first. It was an estate. Where I lived, it was an estate. And in the early 1900s, the owner abandoned it, and then it was divided amongst different
Families?
And my grandfather was born in Red Hill. My father was born in Red Hill, and he got the land in Log Boy. Conways came from Cussla, and they got the other side, and Cleary's came from Cussla, and John Godfrey and his side, they came from Balnastoka, and the Rowans came from Carrickacat, and they got land there. So today there's just the Marie Rowan. She's married to O'Brien, and she has 2 girls. John Godfrey died recently, so his niece got the land. Conway's sold the land. Dick didn't make it will, and it was a mess. But they sold the land, and the house is empty. And Pork lives in our house now, my nephew, and Enda Cleary is living there with his son, and Myra is in the nursing home. She has the dementia, and that's. Loftuses have gone, Jenningses have gone, all Balnastoka's gone. So
Not many people left.
there's not many people around anymore.
And the house was, when was it built?
Our house was built about 1908 or 7 or 8.
And was it stone from a castle?
It was stone from the old owner's house. It was their big estate house, and it was all
In
limestone. So they knocked the house down and they built the house it was called the gatehouse at one time. People would have to stop at the house before they could go into the estate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What, with their servants or something? They
Oh,
would
there
stop
was
there
lots of
first?
servants, and that's a lot of people worked in the estates. That's how they lived. The landlord would give them so much land for themselves, and they grew their own little plot. That's why
Right, it's like they were just renters.
They were tenants. Yes, there
on
were
the land.
tenants there. So that's how
And is that how the Murphy family
That's how
got
they.
the land?
Yeah, that's how. Well, that they lived in Red Hill. They were a tenant in Red Hill, and when they left and got the million and boy, the neighbours, there was some left in Red Hill, and they got that extra bit of land that they had.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you go to school for?
Oh, gee. I don't know what year I left. I'll tell you why. My mother got the widow's pension, and if you went to school, you had to be checked in school. Some officer would come out
Registered, yeah.
he'd come out and look at the books, and if you weren't in school, he had to report it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I went to school until I was 15 or 16, I think, just so that she'd get the pension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You'd go to school a couple of days a week, and you'd be off a couple of days a week. So there's.
They didn't have any where you were, if you were absent too many days.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
Just as long as you went a couple of days.
Mhm.
Now you're checking
Mhm.
checking on it. How's it looking? Okay.
She's cooking away, baking away.
Yeah, what time is it? It's 22 minutes or so. Or was it 10 after? Yeah, 22
10 after.
minutes.
Mhm.
So, oops.
And we worked hard. We had to go to the well for water. We had to dig the potatoes. No,
How far away was the well?
well,
The back?
no, it wasn't in the back. We had to go up to Tubberwell, and we'd yoke the ass and cart with a big barrel, 40 gallon, maybe 40 or I don't know how big the barrel was, and go into the well with your bucket and bring up your bucket of water, put it in, and then they had a cover on the top so that when you got out on the road to bring it home, it wouldn't be sloshing all over the place and be half gone by the time you got home.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get your bucket and go to the well and bring home a bucket of water. I don't know.
So was there a spigot on it then? You could fill up?
No, there was no spigot. No spigot.
40
No.
gallons was a big heavy
It was,
load
yeah.
to be carrying.
Sometimes you might tip it into another barrel and go off and get another barrel.
And
Depends.
how long would it last you?
Oh, it depends. Well, it didn't last very long. You had to do it every day.
Yeah.
You had to do it every day. When we washed, had a big 12-gallon pot. You'd fill it with water, put a big fire on, and get your tub. And
When you were taking a bath?
this is for washing the clothes. And you had your washboard, and you scrubbed. We didn't need to go to any gym.
No,
To
you
get
got all
exer-
the exercise with the
With all
washboard.
the exercise, it was all walking. It was all walking. So that's how we survived.
Yeah. So was it once a week that you did the laundry, or was it whenever?
Oh, it was done once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big day then.
That
whole
was
day of laundry.
a full day's work just to do the wash and get it out.
Yeah.
My mother was sick, and we needed to get the wash, and I was only I wasn't 13 yet. It was the summer that my father died. He died in 1940, and she was very, very sick. So it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt said she'd come and help me do the wash.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the pot of water ready, got the tub ready. I'm waiting for it to come. Well, the water is getting cold, so I started scrubbing. Had to rinse the clothes. I hung them up. 3 days later, she showed up.
Wow.
3
What
days
happened?
later, she showed up. And after that, I had to do the wash.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 13 years of age. So, you know, when I hear of the kids here,
Yeah. Much easier life here.
they don't know what it is,
No.
what hard work is. They really do not know what it is.
Mm-hmm. So what would you do for entertainment?
Oh, gee, there wasn't much entertainment. We had no radio, no TV at this
Just
time.
singing, right? Were
You
singing?
could sing and, you know, go out and pick strawberries out in the woods or something, and or climb trees and.
Make strawberry jam?
No, there
No?
wasn't enough of strawberries to make jam. No,
Okay.
we picked the strawberries.
What about dances? My mother said there
Well,
were
there was dances.
sometimes.
It was dances, but we didn't have a lot of money to go to dances, so you only went to the dance when you could have maybe 2 and 6 months.
Right.
So there wasn't much money spent on entertainment.
And was there matchmaking going on in Ireland?
Oh, I imagine so. Yeah, there was matchmaking. Yeah,
Mhm.
there was matchmaking.
That's how your parents,
That's I think how
You
they
think,
how they
because
met. I think that's how they
your
met.
mom was in
But-
America and she was called back?
Well, she left. No, her her father died. Oh gosh. Her father and mother died in the 1 year, and the kids were all under 21, and the land they got the land from from her uncle, and then they had a will made, and a cousin of mom's took over because he was over 21, and when my uncle Dominic became 21, they turned the land over to him. Well, there was Jim, he went to Salem, Mary went to Salem. Then there was 2 boys, John and Mike. They were young boys, and my mother stayed there with them until 1922, and she went to the States. And she stayed 3 years and 9 months, and saved some money and went back and married my father.
Mm-hmm.
But they must have known each other because my father's sister married my mother's brother. So it was Dominic Caulfield and Ellen Murphy and Michael Murphy and Kate Caulfield.
Right.
So that's how
Because there weren't a lot of people. It
there wasn't a
like
lot
huge,
of there wasn't a lot of people around.
Yeah.
So
Not like today. I
oh
guess.
God no, oh no. And Mary Caulfield, she went home and she married John Hosty.
Mm-hmm.
So Mom was in Logboy, Mary was in Carcacash, and Ellen was in Tulrahan. So the 3 of them was always, and on Sunday morning our house was near the church, so there was always somebody stopping in.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have the thing of feeding people.
Right, because
Yeah.
everybody was coming in.
Yeah,
and
everybody
you had
come
the
in, you'd
food.
have a curtain cake or something, and a cup of tea, and a piece of cake, and
What's a kern cake?
curtain, well, just like raisins.
Just like the soda bread without...
Yes, with the raisin,
Oh,
with
the
curtains.
currants,
Yes,
currants,
yeah.
Okay.
hmm But we were poor in those days, and we didn't even know it. Everybody helped each other out.
Right, everyone was the same way.
Yeah, everybody was in the same boat, and everybody helped each other out,
And did
and
you
that's
get-
how we survived.
You got to go to the store on the corner. Was it
You know,
Grogan's?
Bridget Grogan's, she had a little shop, and if you were short of something, you know, tea or sugar, that was the main thing, tea and sugar.
But for the most part, you would take the
You-
horse and carriage
you
into
could horse-
Ballymonus?
You could go into town and get your groceries, you know. Well, no, the Egler came, man in Ballyhortis, he had a shop. He'd come out through the country and he brought this tea and sugar and soap powder and, you know, shoe polish and everything going, small stuff. And you sold your eggs he bought your eggs and he sold the eggs to somebody else. I don't know how he did it.
So it's kind of like a barter system.
It was a barter system.
Okay.
So you'd get so much for your eggs. It depended how many score of eggs you had. He gave you so much, and then you could buy your tea and sugar, and if you needed butter or a pot of jam, you know, a loaf of bread, you could do that.
And how often did he come?
He came every Monday.
Oh.
He came every Monday. First he came with a horse and wagon.
Mm-hmm.
He came with a horse and wagon. And the horse's name was Dolly. And down the road, when he got a truck, we bought the horse from him.
Oh, wow.
And Dolly, every gate that you'd be out on the road going
She'd
somewhere,
stop.
and she'd stop.
She thought, okay, are we selling things now?
Yep,
This gate?
she would stop. So it was funny.
Yeah. And what was your favorite meal to have?
Oh, gee, I don't know. It was all the same.
Meat and potatoes and vegetables?
Well, it was meat and potatoes and vegetables. All healthy food.
Now, a lot of times, did you have meat every day, or is that just like a novelty?
Sometimes we wouldn't have meat. We didn't eat meat on Fridays.
Every Friday.
No, there was no. In those days, you couldn't eat meat on Friday.
Okay.
She might go. And Friday was the day to go to town. Friday was pension day. You could go in town. She could go in town and get her pension, and she'd come home with some fish. So that's what we had.
And how has it changed over the years? Because you've gone back and forth.
Oh my gosh, has it ever changed? It's just the same as here with the grocery stores. The style is the same. 2 cars in every driveway now. And my sister turns her radio on in the morning, and she said she listens for the deaths, who died. I said to her one day, you know, why are you interested in that? She said, well, the neighbor could have died and I wouldn't even know it. And we'd be embarrassed that we didn't go to the funeral.
Right.
So she said, I listened to it.
Because how much property is between each house? Like, there were a lot of acres.
Oh, there was a lot of acres, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it was Irish acres or English acres. There was 30 some odd, close to 40 acres.
That's a lot of space
Yeah.
between. It's not like you can see the neighbors like you can around here.
Oh no,
So close.
no, it's too, oh no. You're far apart.
And what did you miss about Ireland when you came here? Do you remember?
Well, when I came here, it was Christmas Eve morning. And the cold.
And you took a boat
Yes.
and you landed where?
New York.
Ellis Island?
No, no. It
Okay.
was New York.
Right.
And I went to Connecticut, and the snow and the cold. Oh, it was wicked. I almost died with the cold.
Yeah.
The skin peeled off my face and my legs. I thought, oh, I'll never be able to stick it. That wasn't half bad until the summer came and the heat came. The heat almost killed me.
Yeah, there's such extreme temperatures here.
It was so extreme, I thought I would die. And in those days, people didn't have air conditioning.
No.
In the early 50s, they'd have a fan on the floor, and that was it. And it was really, really hot.
Yeah.
Really, really hot. So I said, well, I'll stick it out for 5 years and then I'll go back and make a decision. Well, guess what happened?
In 5 years' time, how many years were you here when you met?
I was here, it was 6 months short of the 5 years when I met Jean and got married.
And you were ready to go back. You were
That
at
was
the
the end.
mindset
That was
before.
the end. I was ready to go back. Yeah, it's cool. It's still fine. So that was the end. I was here for good.
So, okay, Mother. She was on the phone talking to a friend, was it?
Yep.
Oh, baby.
Okay. All right. Tell us about what your earliest memory was and what's your most fun memory in Ireland growing up.
Running around the cocks of hay in the garden. And
Climbing up on the big
Trees,
bales of
climbing
hay.
trees and swinging. And when we had to go to the fields to do work, Nora and I it would be a sunny day. We would lie by the ditch in the heat, and to make my mother crazy, she'd go after us saying, "Where the heck were you?"
You'd hide on her.
We'd hide on them. We used to love to lie down by the ditch in the sun. to get away from all the hard work we did. We worked very hard. Us Irish are big workers. So, what else?
What's your earliest memory of your mother?
Running after me with the belt, saying if you don't do it,
Behave.
I'll beat the heck out of you.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No?
And I remember
What?
I remember when Nora and Kathleen would be out with the guys, and when they'd come in, she'd be running around the table, running after them, yelling at them, and the guys would come back and peek in the window and see all the carry on and laugh.
And what about school? Did you get into trouble in school?
Oh, school was a pain in the butt because the teacher was so mean. He used to beat us with a big stick. He was mean.
And didn't he hear you yelling?
Yeah, at the sow. In the evening, my job was to put the sow, and I'd say, "Gwyn, you bugger." And next day in front of the kids, he'd say, "I heard her yelling, Gwyn, you bugger."
And didn't you get whacked?
Yep, I got whacked over that.
You had to go out and cut the...
He cut the rod across the street, the road, and didn't even take the knots out of it, and we had to put our hand out, and he smacked us so hard. But when I went home, on my first trip, I went to his house, and I did a little damage in his house, and I got away with it.
Wasn't it Halloween? Was
Yeah,
it?
Halloween.
Or Saint... What do they call
No,
it?
St. Bridget's night.
Saint Bridget's.
Oh yeah.
It's February.
The brie jugs.
Yeah, the brie jugs. And
Do they still do the brie jokes there?
I don't know.
And I went with this neighbour boy, and I had the jeans on from New York, and he knew that I was. And
Cool.
he had a bag of oats in the kitchen, and I took the bag of oats and I flung it down on the floor, and he chased us down the road. We were running like crazy, but we got away from him.
And what are some... Did you learn Irish in school?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He will do.
Cehi Wilto.
down the veil,
Okay, Cehi Wilto.
Na bakter finish.
Pugmahon,
Well, I know Pugamahone, Kiss My Arse. What are the other ones?
Kehi Wilto, how are you?
Cehi Wilto. and
Tomei
what else?
gomai.
What?
Tomei gomai. I'm very good.
Tomei
Gurma,
Gura gomai, good. Thank you.
good.
And do they still teach it in Ireland? do you
Yes.
know?
Oh
They
yeah,
do.
they still teach it.
Because the Nora's
Grandson?
grandson is going to an
An
old
all
Gaelic
Irish,
school.
an all Irish school.
All Irish.
All
Yeah.
Irish, out in Connemara.
So he's learning all
You're all
Irish.
Irish, speak all
He
Irish.
speaks it very well.
Wow. That's
Well, if they
good.
get jobs, they have to know how to speak another language.
Wow.
Because, you know, it's in English and it's in...
I thought they were not... I didn't realize that they were still
Oh yeah, they still use it.
using it.
And they have the computers and everything, just like here.
Are we finished now?
Okay, I guess we're
turn
finished.
off for a while.
We'll
Cake
get
is
back
on,
to...
bread is almost baked.
The bread is almost ready. We'll get back to you.
Sorry, that was